Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Album Club here at Heavy Metallurgy. My name's Marty. I'm here just to see if the our friend Tej, the Glorious Swordsman, is going to be giving his rose to the next black metal bachelor. Uh, everybody's tuning in, wanting to know, Tej, how you doing?
Me first?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that a thing? How am I doing? I'm numb from the neck up. But everything's, life is good and new job, third full week on the job. And, as far as listening, I haven't touched a lot of my own collection. I've been listening to a lot of stuff on Spotify, kind of getting ready for when I actually get a paycheck again and start shopping. But, I did listen. I checked out this band today called Lunar Shadow. I don't know if anybody's heard of them. The album's called Smokeless Fires. Got a lot of piano in it. Marty, I think you might actually like, because for a minute there I thought it was power metal, and I'm like, no, it's not quite, but it's kind of dancing around that stuff. But then I was listening to another band called Live Los. I don't know what the hell. Their new album's out this year. Melodic death metal. And then I listened to Donald Fagen solo record this week. But and then I've showed this before. It's a solo project by a band called Cloud Kicker, Beacons, and then Memoriam's last record, Rise to Power. I think this is their best one, really.
Yeah, I like it. I like TJ. Like
Yeah.
the other ones were kind of boring, but that one like kicked it up a notch.
Yeah, the other ones are kind of hit and miss. The one record, it went off the rails a little bit to some weird kind of punky stuff, and then he's kind of phoning his vocals in and stuff.
The demo was killer, but they kind of just dipped until this.
But this one really kind of brought it all together, and this is sweet too because this is the box set, so I got all the cool shit.
Oh, nice!
Oh wow!
So and I paid way too much money for that, but yeah, so that's kind of I didn't pay. I think I paid. Well, I don't know.
Well, the shipping on top of it, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know if I paid more for that. I think I paid more for that than I did for the carcass dinner plate. Actually, I think I paid. Yeah, I got the dinner plate on sale, so I did okay on that in that regard. But otherwise, yeah, as far as Belenos spicy sausage or whatever, looking forward to going into this a little bit. Here we go.
All right, Kellen.
I missed. Is there a spicy sausage reference here? I should be like, is this a dugout conversation that I missed? Or okay,
this
is us in France.
I don't know. I don't speak French.
So. I got you. I thought I didn't know if this was going to turn into like TJ's cooking channel as well, like as opposed to the additional life notes and history lessons we were going to get.
Yeah, and every song, every recipe is going to be the blackened something.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's I've got a whole lot of snow and ice going on in my world right now, but this was a cool choice from Logan, so I'm happy we got a chance to sit down with this. But I've kind of been snowed in, so spent a lot of time hanging out here and chilling at home. I mentioned stuff I've been listening to. Last week there was some Polish stuff that was kicking around. Pulled this one out. This is the second full length from Christ Agony. It's a kind of an interesting band, like very early in the Polish scene, where a lot of that like Eastern, you want to call it Eastern European or behind the Iron Curtain kind of stuff. Samael comes to mind, where it's a very different kind of black metal stuff going on. So anyway, this is their second full length. And been spinning this. This came up when I had my live stream. I think Devin brought this band up, and I really like this band in general. But this is my favorite release from them. This is Orlok. I can give this French. I can probably write it in the chat. It'd be easier. L'esprit de vent. I think I did quite well there, but
Nailed it.
sure. If Mike is in the chat, he's been correcting my French attempts anytime here. So, but this is a cool French black metal band, and I really dig this record. And looking forward to 2025. This band, Vulture's Vengeance, the Night Lore came out in 2019. They've got a new one on High Roller. This is on Gates of Hell, but I think they signed to High Roller, and they've got a new one coming out here in February. So really looking forward to this release, the first part of 2025.
Right on. Jim.
Let's see. Decided to take it back a little to Barathron this week. Yeah. His Majesty at the Swamp. Nice little reissue here. Good to go back and go Greek again. And then something completely different. Death Angels Fly Through the Park.
God, I haven't spun that in so long. It's not even
Yeah.
funny.
I love this. Yep. Even the song Bored, which is much maligned. I think it's when I was a teenager, my band used to cover it. So, but yeah, fun. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely Third Floor is a really killer song. That's got some great riffs in it.
It's a good album.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Guilty of Innocence. Even the Cold Gin cover, Marty. I'm down. And then got to do a little bit of Accused.
Oh, yeah.
More Fun Than Noble Casket Funeral.
So good.
There's no such thing as a bad Accused album. They're all good. And if you, for some reason, slept on old Accused, you need to get it.
Except for the one where Blaine didn't sing on.
Well, I don't. It's not Accused if he's not on it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, Blaine is the whole thing, really. But yeah. So those are what I've been spinning. Not too much beyond that. Okay. I'm actually having to tone out music during work this week because it's been so crazy. But yeah, these albums made the cut though. So yeah, I'll always make time for Accused.
Yeah. All right, Logan.
I'm not used to this part
I
of the
think I'd
batting
mix
order.
it up a little bit. Yeah, your old hat now, so you're about to put you wherever now.
An honor. So what I've been spinning, 2025 has been off to a good start for metal, in my opinion. I know every year is a good year, but I'm diving or finding already a couple good albums that have could stay the pace until the end of the year. We'll see. Too early to tell, but it's cool to already be finding good music. One of the albums that I was turned on to yesterday is queued up over here. This is let's see, As Darkness Falls by the Obsidian Resurrection. This is actually a band that has been around for I think where they did a demo of a couple of these songs back in 2003 or 5. They're from California. They reached out, were just check this out, and I spun it. It's symphonic death metal, but not in the way that you would potentially think. Whenever I hear symphonic death metal, I think Flesh God Apocalypse or a tech death band just putting an extra layer over an already busy music soundscape. This sounds like good old powerful old school death metal with some of that epic symphonic elements in the background, pushing the music forward. There's some cool moments on here. I recommend checking it out. It is a long listen, over an hour, but it's a great way to start your 2025 if you're looking for something to spin. Check out the Obsidian Resurrection. And then outside of that, been spinning black metal. Been enjoying the colder weather, which for us here means it's in the 40s, not 0 degrees in the 40s. I'll take it. I've been diving into my collection and just pulling out stuff I don't often listen to. Of course, I had to spin this band with my least listened to Agalloch album, Marrow of the Spirit. This is a bit heavier. We got Aesop Decker on drums, and definitely their heaviest album overall, and I always felt like this didn't quite feel like Agalock. It didn't have the magic of the previous three, which are all-time favorites. But it's just the more I listen to, the more I enjoy, and it's one of those that I often forget about. So I was able to go back to this, this week. Which
go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I were to do a top 5 albums of all time, what a daring undertaking, by the way, you guys. An Agalock album probably would be on there. So
Jason Walton from Agalock is going to be on in a couple Fridays, so it'll be fun.
Cool. Look at that. All right. And then other like black metal albums with like folk elements. I had to go for some Moon Sorrow. Been spinning this a couple times. This stuff is just epic. World building, some great riffs on here, great incorporation of folk elements, and yeah, I only own this Moon Sorrow album. It's a shame, so I got to pick up some more. And then finally, another underappreciated band that I bought and then shelved, unfortunately. I think from Russia, Spicilège Yar.
Spicilège Yar, yeah.
Thank you. I was close.
Yep.
Spicy sausage. Yeah, turn this into a recipe.
Panopticon. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit like post black metal at times, a bit modern sounding, but it's good. So just really been enjoying actually being in a black metal mood, which does not often happen for me. So when it's all I want to listen to, I'll take it. So
hey, cheers.
Look at that. Cheers, guys.
Did you say it 3 times? They're like Beetlejuice. They show up and
I was counting it.
Right on. All right, I guess it's me. Yeah. Well, I have to thank Thomas from Sin Arcadia Productions for sending me this one. The band is called Insane. The name of the album is Wait and Pray. And basically he said, I know how much you love Show No Mercy era Slayer. And yeah, I listened to this twice today. It's fun. It's fun as hell. It's I did not look up where they're from, but they're a power trio. And it's like an album that would have, if this was Slayer, it would have fallen between Show No Mercy and Hell Awaits style-wise. It's not as good as Slayer, but it's very Slayer-esque, and it's really well done, and it's a lot of fun. It's a cool throwback that it makes me kind of want to listen to Slayer, but also I enjoyed this enough on its own that it didn't really, put me in that, I'd rather listen to Slayer, screw these guys. It's just really well done, kind of Slayer worship. Good shit. Earlier in the week, I checked out these 2 Rock-A-Rolla's albums. We've got Metal Strikes Back and Pagan Ritual. You start digging in power metal in Sweden. There's a lot going on in power metal in Sweden, and it's all kind of revolving around this guy. This guy is the Blazing Stone guy, and he's in a bunch of other bands, a ton of other projects, and all of them are pretty decent. This here is a lot better. The name is not the greatest, to say the least, but surprisingly really well done. Excellent, intricate guitar work, good solos, good vocals. I don't know. I dig it. I have 2 others of their CDs to dig in to, and I got socked by I was dinking around on YouTube one night, like avoiding going to bed, and I watched a whole Monster Magnet concert and ended up getting in the Monster Magnet vibe. And this band is just, I don't know. Spine of God's my favorite. This one's a lot of fun. Power Trip.
I could never connect with it. I could never connect with that band. I can't. I tried.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
This is the last one I care about. Monolithic Baby. Some good stuff on here too. I don't know. I just like Dave's vocals. He's just, especially on Spine of God. I mean, he's got a good scream. He's got a band I want to like. A good crooning
but
voice.
I just can't get into what they do. There's an element of the band of the style that it's got the stoner vibe and all that, but there's I don't know. There's something about it that I could just never connect with.
James, I didn't spin Dope to Infinity. I've got a couple more of their albums, and I didn't. Those are the 3 I spun. Those are my 3 favorites. But tonight we are here to talk about the 2002 release, the band's second album. The band is called Belenos. And I actually looked up how to say the name because I do my homework around here.
Hey, I looked it up too.
Spicilège.
It means scrapbook, I think.
Yep, it means scrap.
Yeah.
Translates to scrapbook. Well done, Tej. Well done. It's
I
not.
was looking.
It wasn't spicy sausage.
I jest. Just like you and your plague beaver crap.
Plague Beaver, yes. Spicilège, the band's second album. The band is still active. The project has 8 full-length albums. This album came out on Sacral Productions. And the main guy, it's spelt weird. I'm assuming it's Louis is what it kind of...
It's not Loic.
I think it's Louis.
Okay.
Louis, probably. Cellier. But anyway, first impressions of Spicilège. And we're going to go with... let's mix it up. Let's start with Jim today.
First impressions. Kind of, was middle of the road for me. I felt like I'd kind of heard it all before, and maybe done better. Like it wasn't offensive in any way. There was nothing wrong with it, but it just didn't bowl me over. You've got all the elements of pagan black metal here. You've got, the chanting vocals. You've got 12-string guitar. You've got some flute. Some faster moments, some slower moments. So at first I was just kind of, a little underwhelmed, honestly. But as I listened to it more and more, give it multiple spins, definitely bright spots started to emerge, and I ended up liking it more than I did initially. I definitely feel like there's bands in this style that I gravitate towards more and will continue to do so. But, there is some highlights on this record, and it's by no means a bad album, for me, I think there's a lot of bands in this space, and there's bands that have a more definable feature that hooks into me a little more. But yeah, it's a bit of a grower. You kind of gotta really get into, give it time to open up for you with more than one listen. So,
All right, TJ.
Yeah, so I like this better than I thought I would. I'm kind of, as I'm slowly getting to know Logan here, and then listening to this has a vibe to it that makes sense. Like it, because I don't know. You guys bring out this black metal shit. I don't know what the hell. I mean, but I think by now I kind of get it. Like if Jim or Kellen brings out some black metal stuff, it's going to be something that I might not necessarily give a shit about, or Jim likes to go with stuff that he really loves and bring it up. So like he brings out a Marduk record or whatever the hell it was we did that one time. And,
that was me. I brought
was
that.
Was it, well, yeah. I can't remember what one was. What was the one that
I think Jim brought the Bear record. And
yeah, there we go. Whatever. It's just shit I'm never
gonna... I know you loved that one, TJ.
Oh my god, I just gushed. I gushed all over this filthy, gross, stupid record. But
there's pus everywhere.
Yeah, that's But yeah, I mean, I just that is stuff that I'm never gonna connect with that shit. It's just never. I can be civil and I can be constructive, and I gave the Beharit record a pretty fair review, because I'm not trying to be a dick about it. It's like they were kids, and it was I respect it for what it did, but black metal has just always kind of been a hit or miss thing for me. I listen to a lot of post stuff. I have like all the Panopticon stuff, thanks to Marty, but I love all that shit. And I've got some other band, Cormorant, and there's a Polish band I got a record by that's really good too. I can't think of it off the top of my head now, but
I know you love the Death Heaven too, right?
What's that?
Don't you love the Death Heaven?
I do. Not the last record, that was terrible, but it was straight up shoegaze nonsense. But I like Death Heaven. Whatever. I don't care what anybody else thinks. But they're, the first couple records are really cool. But this was I really enjoyed this. I definitely, at least I think, I was picking up the kind of the Frenchness of this, but then the folk stuff is really overarching in this, and it's put together, in a way that really appeals to me. It just, I kind of agree with Jim's take on first impressions. It's kind of like, was I like, oh my gosh, this is really cool, or I'm really hooked on this, and the more I listened to it, the more I definitely appreciated it. But yeah, I did like it a lot more than I expected to. So,
Kellen.
So this is a band that I kind of missed by a decade. Like, by the time I was really getting into the French black metal scene, Belenos had been around for, a decade. So I came in on like the Darken Hold, Vehemence, Sonupper, like that kind of stuff around 2010. I knew I was going to like this record because the pagan sort of medieval stuff that's come out of France is 100% my thing. But I was pretty unfamiliar with just exactly what Belenos, like how they would differ. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to like this record, but just how much? I kind of agree with Jim's initial impression in the sense that by the time, the bands I previously mentioned around 2010, I feel like they're doing very specific things within French black metal and in this sort of pagan medieval space, in a bit more like concentrated and focused way. And I feel probably Belenos doesn't have the advantage of distilling specific parts of the French scene. This very much felt like a band that was trying to incorporate a French sound, a French sort of context, a French sense of melodicism, but coming from like a Norwegian black metal like upbringing. So that was kind of my initial impression. For as long as I've known about this band, though, like Logan gets all the credit in the world for like making me sit down and spend a week with it. So, it's been fun to kind of spend some time and actually dive deeper into a band that I've kind of neglected for too long.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, Ben has been talking about this band. You need to check out Belenos, and I have so many people tell me to check this out, check that out. I suck. I don't always do it, but yeah, it's a band I've seen. I've in distros and dealing with Northern Silence over the years, and just never heard them. And it's cool to finally be able to sit down and listen to them. Unfortunately, I spent the first half of the week listening to the Spotify stream. It's screwed up. The track listing is screwed up on Spotify. The tracks 3 and 4, Terra di Broom and Nas Pagan, are the same song twice. So, and I'm not a guy that pays attention to track listings, so you start off with a really solid black metal sounding album, and all of a sudden it like tanks with this like pagan acoustic wandering thing that goes on forever because they repeated the song twice. They uploaded it wrong. Once someone in the Heavy Metallurgy Discord server, so check that out, link in the description, set us straight on that, and then Logan sent out to all of us here. Actually listening to the album the way it's supposed to be made a little more sense. But basically skipping all of this. I like the record. I think it's good. It's funny because I didn't look until today to sit down and start getting all this stuff put together that they're French, because they don't sound French. They just don't. I don't know what the French sound is, to be honest with you, when it comes to black metal, because there's such, if you're going to process it by the stuff that I've grown up listening to, you've got, the LLN stuff, Lelesian Noir stuff, which is, Mutilation, Vlad Tepes, Belketre, and you got bands like Antaeus, which is just nasty, scraping, violent, discordant. it's like the antithesis of melody. They're like just trying to attack and cut you with their music. So that to me is kind of the French thing, aggressive and mean and hostile. And of course Alceste, which is a little bit more on the Ulver side, a little more beautiful. So Belenos, I thought it was just another random Scandinavian band, one of the lesser tier that didn't really get swept up in the hubbub of the popularity when it was happening. But the more I listen to the album, I'm kind of with Jim here. It was kind of a grower for me. I thought it was really good. I liked it initially, but it just doesn't. There's not a lot of wow factor here, but we'll get into all that stuff later. Logan, what did you think? Obviously, you picked it, so it's a thumbs up for you.
Well, actually, you guys are giving me a little bit too much credit here. This wasn't like a carefully selected album from, because I have such a vast knowledge of the realm of black metal. I am kind of like TJ. I'm not necessarily a black metal fan myself. Maybe TJ, that's why our taste might be a little more similar, because this is a well I go to every now and then, and I try to get deeper every time. So this one was actually just a random blind buy. A record store, you hate for this to happen, was shutting down. 90% off of everything. I went crazy. I bought everything in their store, including this, for like $1 or something.
A5 digibook. You can't stick it anywhere.
Yep. And this was years ago, probably 2000 or something. This is, because of COVID, I'm sure that's why it went under. So I got this, probably spun it once or twice. I was like, yeah, it's black metal. And then stuck it up, not just on the shelf, but on a different shelf, because as you said, Marty, A5, where the fuck do you put it? Not with all your other CDs. So this kind of ended up being lost in my collection for a bit, until I was like, oh, it's getting cold. Let me dive in, try to find some mediocre black metal. And I stumbled across this album. I was like, man, I should give this a little bit more time and attention and see if it's something that I'm missing. So really, this has been my first time diving into this album as well. So on first spin, I actually kind of agree with all of you guys. It's a grower. It didn't really, immediately sync with me. It probably took 2 to 3 spins. My biggest surprise was there's so much folk music on here. There's so much like pagan atmosphere and folk elements, and the Viking clean singing and stuff. I was expecting this to be more of a straight up black metal listen, but it's definitely not. And I think that might be the as you're diving deeper into this album, the make or break point is if you do appreciate like the folk elements that they're incorporating into their style of black metal, or if you think it's taking away from it, or a bit hokey or whatever. So I was just surprised to find that this, it's got traditional folk instruments. There's swords clashing in the background, clean singing all over the place. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise with, unpacking this album.
Right on. Do you have a thing for us?
I do. Speaking of folk music, so folk metal has not really been something that I've clicked with. So this is kind of a question. I'm just interested in hearing y'all's take on this. So folk and metal initially seem to be at odds sonically, which can create a challenge for a band trying to incorporate it into their sound. As a metal listener, what do you look for from bands that successfully incorporate folk elements into their metal music, in your opinion? And in that same token, what elements of folk music can turn you off from a band's performance when this style is unsuccessfully included on an album?
I gotta say, the first thing that comes to mind is something I don't like is that band Fintroll.
No.
That's on my list, actually. That's funny.
They combine traditional Finnish humpa music with metal, and it's always been kind of goofy to me. Anyway, Jim, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I guess for me, I can't really think off the top of my head of like too many bands that I don't like, the mix with. But yeah, I would say you're on point there, Marty. Like any of the bands where the folk, instead of it being sort of like, melded with the metal, it's just like, okay, folk here for a couple minutes and then switching to the metal like that, where it doesn't really, the atmosphere or like the sort of like just the tone and the feel of it, like doesn't really, mesh well. That and it almost feels like those types of bands, I guess, would Tier be one of those, the TYR band? I haven't listened to them in a long time, but
They're
yeah.
very from the Faroe Islands. There's kind of a power metal thing going on there.
Yeah, I mean,
all I've heard is not very folky. It's just
yeah,
a little
I
bit.
can't remember, but I just remember like if it's not, it almost feels like those types of bands like don't, I don't know, it's not when like the presentation is more important than the overall atmosphere that's created, like that's when I don't like it. Yeah. When we care about more like what's going on stage, when it just feels like it's bombastic rather than like, I guess for lack of a better word, like spiritual, or at least, kind of inward arising, that's when it's annoying. With this particular album, I don't get that vibe though. I do feel there's a lot of sincerity coming here, from this band, and I think they do meld it right. Even though, they pivot quickly from like a 12-string interlude to some bashing black metal with really killer snare sound cutting through and all that. It just it seems to work for me. It has a very kind of a rough edge to it. In some places, almost like a demo like quality and how abrupt the changes are. But it still feels like, atmosphere wise and like intention, the intent of the record with their presentation of it is, a true melding of the genres. So I guess for me, it's probably not a great answer, but I don't listen to much that where it fails. If I sense that it's like a bombastic thing, then I won't listen to it anyway. It only gets my ear when there's like an emotional, depth to it. For me, I don't know, Druid is a big one for me. I feel like, their take on those sounds really takes me to a different place, especially their older albums, not so much their newer
Very
stuff.
Emotional.
Very emotional. Autumn Aurora is always going to be one of my all-time favorite black metal albums. Every time I listen to that record, I feel like I'm, walking in the North Woods in Michigan, surrounded by billions of colors, coming from the trees. Like it really creates that vibe for me. And so I think when it's done well, it can be, uplifting and take you back, in your own mind to a different time and a different place. I feel when it isn't emotional and it's just done to, present or, like a documentary would, it's just a slap in the face and it just feels forced. But luckily, I don't think tonight's album is one of those. So.
Kellen.
Yeah, so I really enjoy this side of. Let's just focus specifically. I know we're kind of talking about metal broadly, but black metal, for me, so much of it deals with sort of like historical, cultural romanticism. So if you're going to try to pull back, hundreds of years of instrumentation, I think folk music is a part of that storytelling. And the deciding factor for me, Marty mentions Fintroll, like the members of Fintroll and the members of Moonsorrow, like there's a dividing line there for me. And it has always been like one band clearly is first and foremost a black metal project that has sort of Finnish traditional elements built into it. The other one is just like a pirate Finnish party, like that.
Yeah.
That is, it is the vibe you get on their records. And I don't. That's not just my thing, right? So for me, within a black metal record that starts to incorporate folk elements, it's first and foremost, is this decidedly a black metal listen first? All my favorite bands that incorporate sort of pagan or folk or Viking elements that are sort of trying to reach back into history and incorporate those instruments, those melodies, that kind of, to Jim's point about like an identity that feels artistically sincere. When they're trying to incorporate those things, like when we covered Hades, that's has all sorts of pagan Viking stuff all over that record, but it is first and foremost a black metal record. Yeah. So it, just as an example, like that's always for me, like when I'm able to say the folk elements to this band are incorporated well and are meaningful, and then differentiate them from when they feel like this is appealing to someone altogether who wants to go to a festival in the 1600s in their Ren Fair outfit. Like that's something totally different. And I feel that's the part of folk metal that feels like it would not work on this album. I think there's enough sort of interest in trying to do something that is sort of like French ancestry or Nordic ancestry, in terms of influences, that feels like that's what it's trying to connect to. But I don't want to say like there's an element where there could be too much or be a distraction. My favorite band that does this right now is Our City or License, and those records are 100 minutes long, big ambient acoustic sections in them, but they're first and foremost a black metal band for me, or they're enough of a black metal band convincingly that I can handle long bouts of acoustic, pagan elements in them. So I don't think it can ever be too much. I don't think it's something that's a distraction or doesn't work for music like this. I think it's just kind of to Jim's point. It's about how well it's implemented and whether it feels sincere in terms of driving home the reality of the record.
Hey, Sheldon, thanks so much for the super chat. You're too kind. Thank you. Thank you. Well said, Kellen, as always. And TJ.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a real big brain answer for this. I mean, as far as folk music and metal, I mean, the earliest exposure that I can recall to anything that sticks out in my head would be Jester Race, to where it was something that was so patently and completely obvious as a new experience for extreme music, and that record had a huge impact on me as a fan and as a musician. I was trying to emulate that crap for a long time. I say crap lovingly. I love that record, but it to me, it's just one of those things. If it's there and it's cool and I enjoy it, I'm not really thinking about it. I acknowledge what it is, but it's not something that, and like the Finn Trolls and the Corpiclanis and all that stuff. I mean, I don't, just whatever, I mean, that stuff is what it is. It's like you say, Kellen, it's a big, European party thing, and they all sit around and swill beer and jump around and dance and whatever, and it's metal and whatever, and it's yuck. I don't care about it. I mean,
People having fun listening to metal, that's dumb.
It is. It's fucking stupid. It's not my idea of a good time. I'd rather be sitting there, miserable. So, it's like, why isn't this music making me sad? But, I mean, I haven't heard anybody break it out at Fat Camp yet. So, there's, maybe we'll have to try that or something, change my mind. But, ultimately it's just not something that, when it's that overt and where it's so driven by that. I mean, it's not something that I just even care about. But, for me, it's like, if it's cool, it's cool. It's culture. it's, and especially, and especially with the European bands, it's like, the band, they really started embracing that stuff. And, the bands that do it well, and it's really cool. And it's, whether the piece is soaring or somber, emotive or, sullen or whatever, what have you. And like in this record here, the stuff he's doing is, it's very emotive and kind of dark, but there's a beauty to a lot of it, and it's very well done, and it's just a part of it, and it's cool. Beyond that, it's not something that I ever stop to think, if it's there, or if it's there, what it means necessarily, or what value it might have. If it's just, if it's cool, it's cool. Beyond that, I don't really have any other take on it.
For me, it's like anything. If it's done well, I like it. If it like, Fintroll, it's silly. There's a silliness level to it that is hard to stomach. Of course, I haven't listened to Fintroll in so long, but
me neither.
Yeah, I look at bands like Monogarm. I think they do a really good job with it. Granted, that may be a bit more Viking metal, but they actually break down acoustics. They have acoustic songs with they have a dedicated fiddle player. So you've got a folk element. I mean, this goes all the way back to Skyclad. Skyclad is a good example of mostly folk mixed with thrash done right. But as they went on, and when they started having albums called Folkymon, ooh, it started to get a bit hard to take. But Monogarm, another band, twin brothers in England called Forefather, blackened metal with folkish, Celtic type of, or Gaelic, I guess, type of melodies. Borknagar. Everybody calls them, I think, a progressive band, but they always had some really cool folk elements in their music that I thought really set them apart. Jim mentioned Drutk. I really like the emotional impact of that. Yeah, Folkymon. Check it out. It's got a little cat-looking Pokemon on the cover of it. It's not a very good album. I think that's the last album with Martin Wolkier on the... yeah, the question was... I don't remember the question, but I think when the folk is done right in metal, it adds a lot. It suits metal quite well when it's done well. And one thing that's nice about it is you're not going to hear a lot of saxophone. Logan, what do you think?
Well, I don't listen to a lot of it.
For me, I think Jim kind of hit the nail on the head right out the gate. The folk metal that I enjoy, or the folk elements that, I enjoy when it's in metal, is when it feels genuine and heartfelt, and like it's there for the purpose of building atmosphere, adding to the music, creating like a vibe that tells a story or represents, cultural elements. And it's not there to be like a gimmick to create like just party for the sake of party, or kind of hide just boring metal music in the background. Like that's another thing I've noticed by some of like the modern folk metal bands. Like for me, when I was, getting into metal in the early 2010s, and folk metal kind of rubbed me the wrong way in the same way that power metal did. It was just out there, like kind of gimmicky and like overproduced. And
well, they have a common thread, and that's melody. Like in key
melody.
Yeah. I mean, there's an aspect to it that's a little more lighthearted, a little more upbeat. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean that that could be it. But like bands like Corplicani, Eluvati, Insephirum, I would throw Ailstorm in there too. I mean, we're already talking about them in the chat, for crying out loud. But like, if that's your representation of what the genre could be, like, that's not.
Ailstorm is kind of a
we're not calling them power metal, pirate metal though. They're not pirate. We're not giving them their own genre.
They're kind of an insult to folk. Anyway.
I agree.
I like Glory Hammer, but the Ailstorm stuff is tough. It's tough to, anyway, even for me. Go ahead.
When you look at the major labels in like the 2010s, like Century Media, Nuclear Blast, and Napalm being the worst offender, this is the kind of metal, folk metal that you'd find, and it just didn't have that genuine feeling like these elements needed to be there. But finally, I'm gonna highlight like kind of the American scene, and really Bindrune has been doing a great job of putting out some very important, I think, albums in it that are really incorporating folk elements and Americana elements, which is, come on, American folk music, in a way that is telling, representing American culture, American history, American people. I mean, Penobscon's Kentucky, Nechachewin, I was going to mention. Like, those are the elements that I look for from folk music. And I think when you go to Europe, those elements are there in some of these bands too. Like Belenos, this sounds genuine. The Moon Sorrow, absolutely. It sounds like they're basing, at least with Moon Sorrow, they're basing their band around it, but it's for a purpose, a bigger purpose than just, trying to, what was that beautiful picture you created, TJ, the drunken metal party, people having fun. Yeah, it's not for that. But, yeah, Hellstock can have that, I guess. But that's my take.
All right, well, let's get into discuss musicality and composition of Spicilège. Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I there's no doubt the guy writes a great black metal song. All the elements are here. Again, good guitar playing. Well executed transitions. The riffs are have a great sound to them. This is not raw black metal, but there's a raw element to it that has an edge to it, which kind of keeps it from becoming sort of monotone in its delivery. Vocals have a great screech and urge to them. And I like when they downshift into the quieter parts. There's a lot of moments where the choice is made to let the acoustic guitars or electroacoustic guitars, if you will, like just be by themselves for a moment, and then everybody comes back in, and it's obviously that's a common thing in metal, but in this band's approach, they let the acoustic guitar breathe a little bit longer than usual, I think. And instead of it being just like one or two measures, it can go on for 4 to 8 measures, and that is enough to kind of change the vibe of the song for you and make a 5 minute long song seem more epic. So very good compositionally here. I love the additional instrumentation with like the flutes, the choice of doing like a full on chant song at the end of the album. Those were really great at maintaining the vibe here. My only gripe with all of that is, just like I mentioned earlier, I just didn't feel like there was something that made me say, you know what, this has got something very unique going on. I've heard a lot of bands incorporate all these same elements that I just mentioned, but usually there was some spark, within the maelstrom of originality that I could hone in on that sort of would define the band. So it's like everything was right. There's nothing wrong, but nothing that really reached outside of all the tenets of this style of black metal and defined it in a unique manner for me. So maybe this is the wrong album to come on board with these guys. Maybe there's something before or after that has a bit more character to it. So but that would be my only gripe is execution wise, compositionally, like all the elements are here, but I just missed that one thing that sort of says, okay, there is a characteristic of this band that sets them apart, and kind of still searching for that. So.
I gotta say, Corey nails it here with Vinder with folk influence, black metal. I mean, Arntor, You want to talk about an awesome folk influence with black metal? That album rules. That is a great, great, great pick, Corey. I don't know why that didn't come to my head earlier, but well said, Jim. Sorry, I just want to get that in there before I forgot. And TJ.
Yeah, I think to Jim's point a little bit. There is a sameness to this record that did stand out to me. Like, you know, like Jim's saying, like like I've heard it before, kind of thing. It's like it wasn't jumping. Like I'm listening to it, and it's like it all just felt very like tread ground. But I feel like the songs are all really well put together, and I like the mood of it. I like the Marty was complaining about the the Celt vocals, the
because that track doubled. It was like it totally sunk it because I was listening to the same song twice and not realizing.
Yeah. And that and then of course it's like I guess I'll have to give that song an honorable mention because by the time I realized what was happening, I couldn't. I went to to YouTube Music even, and the same thing. I was just like, and then I saw Logan's link. I'm like, oh, well, there's the problem. But yeah, so it's like, well, I missed the whole track, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean, he relies on a lot of kind of similar themes musically to kind of get his point across. But I think he builds really good melodic lines. None of it's really overly complex, and but it's not boring. I really like the mood of it overall. It's got its little cult hints and stuff, but it has a better feel to it, for me anyway. The overall jive of it lives in a place that I found really appealing. The guy's talented. When I realized it was just a solo thing, I do see. I was looking. He had a drummer and some other people on the record with him.
There's a full band on this one.
Yeah,
the archives.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Maybe he wrote all the stuff and hired guns. I don't know. But it's definitely the music. The music doesn't meander at all. It's all very focused as far as the composition and stuff goes. It all seems to have a real singular vibe to it. But I think overall, I feel like it's a really well executed. Was I blown away by any of it? No, but I really did enjoy the record. I put quite a few listens into this, and I thought it was good. But I definitely, like Jim said, there is a sense that I got of this too, where it was just like sameness and kind of I've been there before kind of thing. So.
All right, Colin.
The thing I wanted this band to do was to kind of break deeper into what I do feel is like a pretty established at this point in time kind of melodicism that I associate with France specifically. So I know you're used to like the raw stuff of the 90s, Marty, but there are more and more bands. I feel like I know we've talked about Dark and Hold in the past, and they've got like a castle-y thing going on.
Yeah, I got their first 3 albums.
Yeah, Dark and Hold, awesome.
The album Castleum is great.
Yeah,
great album.
I think there is, what happens a decade after Belenos is there are more French black metal bands who I do think start to incorporate a very well-established sort of medieval French sound, and I kept on wanting this band to break into that, and they always kind of felt like they had one foot in their influences and didn't know how to sort of culminate into a unique personality trait. Like, I think that was the thing that I felt was where they were struggling. This album struggles is I know where the French black metal scene is going to be in a decade, and Belenos does not get here on this record, or they don't necessarily point in a clear direction that you're going to find them. So the melody side of thing was a bit challenging. The strength of the songwriting for me comes in the transitions. I think they do a really good job moving between like sung vocals, faster blast moments, sort of slower open acoustic sessions. What I did feel though was a bit distracting is it's happening often, and I don't to the point where I almost felt like they don't have a clear sense of like, I know where this entire song is going to end. as much as like they have an ability or as a band to sort of transition in between different sort of personality traits as a project. So what was cool is they had all these sort of like all the different vocals, all the different sort of, they've already talked about the different instrumentation. But I just felt what was challenging about this listen that I kind of felt it sort of made it a little bit more bland, I guess, was that I couldn't latch on to a certain song and be like, I know we're going to sort of climax at a specific point in it. I just think it's sort of like a cumulative effect of different sort of aspects that come together in a good way, but never go any specific direction. And then there's a couple of tracks here, and I will defer to the musicians in the band, but it almost feels like they're leaning into like a little bit of a death metal role at times. Like the tuning of the guitars get a little bit lower.
I was going to bring that up. It's a lower tune. The guitars are tuned lower than standard E.
Yeah. So there's a couple of tracks that I kind of pulled out. The one that I paused and returned to be like, hey, I need to bring this up at Album Club is Loin au Nord. That there's a moment on this track where it sort of moves into this like much heavier double bass sort of push that I would associate with death metal, and it's a passing moment, but it's enough of a distraction to sort of rescue me from this pagan world that it's helped build. So it was an interesting turn. I just thought that was noteworthy.
Logan.
Yeah, so I guess first to answer, did this feel good in like the winter weather for me? Yes, this was a good winter listen, and I'm glad I picked this for this colder week. I think the reason I ended up enjoying this was just hearing how they brought the folk metal, the pagan influence, and then took this like black metal influence and they did mix it in, and at times they keep it separate, at times they merge it together, and at times it's just a little bit in between. And I do agree very much so with Kellen about the transitions. It really just lunges from one to the other, and it's kind of exciting. It really, the feel of the album overall has this like roller coaster kind of vibe, and it's very like charging in its approach up until you get to certain folk metal or folk instrumental points, and then you're able to slow down and kind of take a breath until you get back on that intense roller coaster of black metal riffs and shrieks and just good. It's a fun trip, I think. At the 2 points, like the black metal side of their music, I really thought of one band, and honestly that was Eternus. You guys kind of nailed it with talking about the
Some of us
vibe.
did. Some of us nailed it. Others were confused in their classification of the thing, but it's one of those. Well,
as far as a black metal band, Eternus kind of came to mind, just because of how the guitars are played and like really the relationship between the.
What was that, TJ? What was that?
Damn it, TJ! I didn't. TJ's on the Marty bandwagon. I didn't see that coming.
It's not black metal.
Oh, come on, guys. Well,
some people just get it.
That one black metal album, Beyond the Wandering Moon. That one black metal album. This has elements with like the relationship between the guitars and the drums, and just I think the intensity of it at times. Like the drummer on here, I think, is phenomenal. He really does help propel the music forward, and some of the best parts on this album are because of the interplay between him and Luis, or the main guy, building these like epic riffs that kind of just dive in, into the fray, if you will. So that's my favorite part. And then when they start to incorporate the folk like music, especially like in the melody lines, I really enjoy it. It almost gets this like drunken sway to it when it kind of succeeds at most. One of my favorite songs on here that does it perfectly, Par Belenos. That's like the 4 minute, like the most folky feeling anthem of the songs, and I just enjoy them perfectly, meshing those elements together. I do think the vocals were the toughest sell for me, just because of the clean singing and just how common it was on the album was not something I was expecting to have to digest as much. I definitely kind of got there in the end, but I wouldn't have mind if he brought out even some more death metal growls. There's some death metal, growls on here that I really enjoyed on that track you mentioned, Kellen, I think, and maybe the closing one. But all in all, it's a fun, to me, a fun hodgepodge that I think is unique. But I don't have that same relationship with the French black metal scene, and I mean, even what you're talking about, Jim, like appreciating maybe bands that are aping the style. This sounds relatively unique to me, and maybe that's why I was able to click and hold my attention, more so.
All right. Well, for me, the songwriting, the composition stuff, I think the folk elements are cool. How they're paced out in the album, it's a good dynamics thing. It takes away from just another black metal song, because it's been mentioned already before, there is an aura of sameness that kind of, by the halfway point of this record, I've kind of heard what Belenos has to offer, and they kind of keep repeating it, which it's a good element, it's a good formula, it works really well for them. I think the folk inclusion is a really cool idea, but I think at this point in their career, I heard one track that popped up in the Spotify playlist. It sounded like it was played with a 7-string. They got heavier. They tuned down even more. They're playing with 7 strings on this one song anyway. But I think the folk elements are a bit undercooked. I think it's an idea they're messing with here. I think it's kind of cool, but it's a lot of type of chanting along an acoustic guitar. I do believe I like how he incorporates the acoustic guitar in with the metal. I think he does that very, very well. He gives it a lot of space. A lot of the metal drops out, and the acoustic guitar kind of creeps to the foreground a bit. I think it's really well done. I just think the first half of the album is a great use of dynamics, good use of tempo, a lot of 6/8, epic kind of triumphant kind of plotting in some of the songs, which I really like. I just think towards the end, it's starting to get a little played out. And like you guys said, it starts to get a little samey, and I really wish the folk would have entered maybe into the music. Although he does do it. There's some chanting in some of the black metal stuff. But I also think that he is a little unsure, not very confident with his vocals, and they're buried in the mix and a lot of effects on them. I think that's usually a telltale sign that the singer is maybe not real sure of his skill yet. I think if those vocals were brought up, his black metal screams are good, but the singing part, the clean singing part are very buried. But as far as the songwriting goes, there's nothing out of place or wrong here. Like I think TJ said, it all sounds very well considered. And I do think we need to realize this band started in 97. So they're kind of at the forefront of the black metal thing. And for France, that's early. So it's like, I've missed them. So it's like Jim said, we're comparing, who they influenced to them, and that's not always fair. But let's talk about the production. Jim.
This is one of the highlights for me. I've mentioned a couple of times that there's a raw edge to what they're doing, and I'm with you, Blake. I'm with you, Marty. The black metal from the '90s era is where I kind of define the French sound for me. It's Vlad Tepes, it's Mutilation, it's the Legion Noir guys.
Yep.
And this is not that, but there's an edge there with the production where it's just really loose. Like the drums are very punishing. The snare's up super loud in the mix. It's got that tang to it, which too much of that, like I can't handle. Is it that death metal band is an adversarial that has it sounding like a trash can on their albums? I can't remember. It's one of those AD death metal bands. That's not too much of it here. Like it's just enough of the tang where it feels aggressive and angry. Some great tom work on here, and lots of great the cymbals are up in the mix, which I really like. I don't like the pop of the kicks. Like that's the one element of the drums that I felt was kind of an odd choice. Like it's the one that clicky kick sound is like the one modern element to the production that I felt was kind of out of place. But other than that, the drum production I really like. Guitar sound is just it's dirty. It's really, you know, nice and unclean. A great counterpoint to the very clean 12-string guitars and the melodicism that comes along with that. The bass isn't really there. You can feel it, but you can't hear it. Like if you're listening to this on your headphones, you know, you can feel those bassier moments, and it kind of rises up, but it's not clear. Now, this is black metal. We all know bass isn't, for the most part, isn't an important instrument in black metal. So the fact that you can even kind of feel it is kind of good enough, I think, for this record. Though I still wish, you know, that it would have been up a little bit more. I think it would have been a nice contrast to the really gnarly guitar tone. Vocally, a great shrill vocal. I've already mentioned that, and I like how it's mixed. It's not too much. It's not too little. I feel that, you know, overall it's just got a nice kind of like raw sort of feel. It's not raw black metal. You know, I'm not trying to say that. It's very melodic, but that edginess is sort of, you know, intentional or not. It gives the album to me as a whole, sound wise, more like gravitas, if you will, and kind of pulls you back from the kind of sameness that we're talking about. So yeah, I think, you know, maybe even more so than the songwriting, like the production itself kind of gives this album a bit more power than it would have had otherwise. Had it been any cleaner, I definitely think that you know, to Kellen's point earlier, like the blandness would have kind of overwhelmed me. But because there's like kind of a knife's edge, you know, recording approach here in the studio, it made it a little bit more like punchier for me as a listen. So yeah, production wise, and on that particular element of this recording, I think they nailed it. So. Take it away.
Someone could jump in.
What's going on?
Hey,
my machine broke.
Oh shit! Multiple machines broke. Yeah, I think the production on here I like. I think it actually sounds kind of warm, in my opinion. Like maybe it's because of the folk elements and the folk instrumentation, but it honestly to me sounds more like a winter into spring album than like that cold, unforgiving atmosphere that you would typically associate with some black metal. Maybe that's a French black metal scene or thing where it feels a little bit warmer, and just because of that, how the guitar is mixed too. So I think the mixing of the drums and the guitars might be my favorite part about the production. They're very almost harsh sounding and so forward in the mix that, as I said, it feels like they're propelling the recording forward and really pushing it from track to track and pushing it along. And then that cleaner, just warmer folk element is really there for you to catch your breath before it comes back in and just crushes. And I could see what you're saying, Jim, about some of the drum mix for sure, but I just like how aggressive and unpolished it is. I mean, once again, I think the vocals might be the one part of the mix that, you know, they sound kind of rough at times. They're not, and maybe that adds
probably why you buried them.
Probably why you buried them. So maybe they're there for a reason, but I still wouldn't mind being able to hear them a little bit more. Like I think maybe if the vocals were higher up in the mix, some of the songs would have more character and maybe more things to latch onto, and that feeling of sameness would be maybe a little bit less. But maybe we don't want to hear what the vocals sound like, and that was indeed a on purpose decision. For the most part, though, I think the mix does help make this album, and I really can't imagine it too much differently. So I think for what it is an ideal production, and mixing for it. So I wouldn't change anything besides the vocals just a little bit.
TJ.
Yeah, I agree with Logan too. I found the mix on this to be a little kind of warm. There was a warmth to it that I was surprised was there. The production on this it struck me as really funny because there's some moments where the drums where like there's a solo fill and there's nothing playing, and it sounds like he's in his bedroom or something. There's like no room ambient sound or nothing, and it's just. But then when the whole song kicks in, it's like, oh God, those are actually really in there really well. And there's a couple times where that happens, and it's just really funny because it just sounds so primitive and goofy. But then when it all kind of gels, it's like, oh wow, it just works. That's so stupid, but it sounds right. And the drums are really good. I don't know. I think I like where his vocals are in the mix. I think he gives a really good performance. Personally, I like his voice. But me, I'm kind of a more in the mix than on the mix when it comes to vocals. At least I know personally for myself, and I know the Glorious Dead goes back and forth about this a little bit.
You were vetoed in that whole.
I know. I know. Well, that's me, and we argue about it, and I lose because whatever. That's just how I'd rather
be.
I'd rather have my voice more inside the song than on top of it, but that's just me. But so I don't know. I feel like I like how it kind of flows in with all the instruments and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the production on this is really cool for what it is. It's there's no gloss on it, but it's clean in the sense that I think it shines. And I don't know, Jim. I felt I don't know. Maybe it is just that I could feel the bass in this, that I felt like it was there. Because there's such a warmth that I perceived in this. So I don't know. Maybe again, it's just perception is what it is. But yeah, I think the production for this is really cool.
Cullen. Muted.
I do think like the edges of the guitar and like the crack of the snare do a good job of sort of being that raw or more aggressive side of black metal production that works well for this record. To me, the vocals, we've kind of talked about that. I agree they feel a bit more recessed, but it feels like they are adding to the ambient nature of this record. Like I think they are much more of an environmental quality as opposed to like a leading character on this album. So I didn't have a problem in terms of their placement in the mix, just because with all the screams and the sort of chanting and the sung parts, where they sort of how front and center they are in terms of your attention. And I think what is best about this record, I didn't mind that they were sort of pushed a little bit further back, because I think they added to sort of just the overall like ambient environment going on. The one other thing I'll just add in terms of the production I liked is there's oftentimes you can tell when he's writing these songs, the way that like an electric part or a clean guitar will sort of weave in and out of within one another, I should say. Like they'll add on top of each other and then sometimes transition into an acoustic space and then come back in. Like I could sort of distill and separate those different instruments and different elements, I think, cleanly. So I think that adds to sort of some quality of this record in terms of the production and the control of the individual instruments, which I think was a success here.
Yeah, there's nothing glaring bad about the production. I think the production lends itself well to the atmosphere of the record. And the fact that the acoustic instruments cut through really well, especially within the metal, where it's fortifying a metal riff, you can hear the acoustic cutting through. That's a solid mix to me. And I just think, and the grim vocals I think sit fine. It's just the cleans, the chanting, a little low in the mix. Plus they put so much reverb or delay or whatever chorus on them that It's kind of like, TJ's whole point on music, the vocals in the mix or on the mix. It's kind of like an album that always pops to mind is like Coroner's Punishment for Decadence. Here's an album where you read that he wanted to put the vocals a little lower in the music so the music could stand out more, because they're really proud of how technically challenging it was. It has always bugged the crap out of me how quiet those vocals are. I mean, is he a fantastic vocalist? He isn't, but it's part of the music. Yeah, the riffs are great, but I focus on the vocals, it's got to be there, especially when, it's adding to the music. Here, it's not really a big offense. It's just a notice. There's, mixing issues. The bass, I bet you if you were in the studio, in the control room, and turned off the bass while it was playing, you would notice a loss. It's kind of like the way it is. You feel the bass presence. Even if there is no distinction in the notes, you can still, when it's not there, you notice. But I think overall it's a very atmospheric record, which is good. I think it's warm, but it's kind of rounded off. There's not a lot of edges to this recording, which I guess I would have preferred maybe a little bit more bite here and there in the guitars, maybe a crispness in the grim vocals. But man, this is 2002. That's nitpicky. I don't know. As it is, I think this is a pretty well done sounding, good sounding album. Let's talk about favorite, least favorite songs. Kellen.
Favorite songs for me, from the track listing that I'll go through. I don't know if we'll have a lot of competitive notes given how sort of we got different streaming, but the second track, Ensorcelle, the fifth track, Par Belenos, and the seventh track, Adorned. Those tracks for me are the most balanced and feature all sort of the strengths. The last one I mentioned, just like there's a little bit of like a death metal riff going on there. I also do think this album closes well. L'Atre No, if I got that right. That feels like it culminates into something. It's a little bit slower to my memory, and I just feel like even though the last technical track is the acoustic sort of outro, I do think that there's like a heavier element to the closing track. None of them are really necessarily bad, but I can't sort of latch onto one and say that it exceptionally stood out relative to the rest of them.
Jim.
For me, the clear winner on this album is L'Entrée Noire. It's track 8. That one, it has a completely different vibe than any other song on the album, and even though it's, in my view, very heavily Burzum, Philosophum influenced, it still kind of stands out to me. It's got that mid-tempo rolling double bass, playing with kind of that tremolo picked riff that rides along the drums. But I really feel like the vocals are really strong here. There is a sincerity with the screams, like he's really, really singing from the diaphragm on that one, and it has its own mood that I think kind of outshines the rest of the record. When the pagan vocals come in, sort of like on the chorus, with that sort of rolling double bass kind of a feel, I think the atmosphere really gets strong here, and it stays pervasive. The only ding on this song is the latter half, about 4.5 minutes in, it goes really into fast black metal, and that kind of kills the vibe for me there. And it's the one moment on the album where I wish he had not sped up the tempo. I really liked that mid-paced run. I kind of felt like I was on a journey there. So, but regardless of that, a little bit of a misstep at the end. I think it's the best song on the album, track 8. Another one that I really like is Mort Divine. That one has very angry riffs. double basses, the roll in the verses. I think some of the best feel here. There's a nice acoustic overlay with the distortion on the chorus, so that song was a kind of a standout for me. And whenever Mort Divine and L'Entrée Noire come on, that's kind of where my ears perked up on the record. For things that didn't really work for me, it's kind of what I said at the beginning. Like there aren't really any missteps here. It's really just kind of overall that they're, the defining, characteristic that what I would say, like, this is Belenos as opposed to this band or that band, never really rears its head. Even on my favorite songs, the tracks I just mentioned, which are 6 and 8, I still feel like there was influences from other people, even though overall, since these guys were, mid 90s when they were doing demos with this style, I mean, that was before a lot of other bands were doing it. So you got to give them credit for that. But, but be that as it may, I heard a lot of other bands in this style afterwards, way before I ever heard any of this. This is the first time I heard these guys. And so it just feels like it's not, I got a lot to offer here. But if you didn't listen to any other song, I would at least check out track 8, track L'Entrée Noire. I think it's a very strong song here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the original release, if I'm looking at this, I know that on subsequent releases there was a song after it, but on the version I listened to, the chant de Tamna, which was just chanting for a couple of minutes, that's the closer on the version that I listened to.
That's great.
I'm actually cool with that. In the context of this record, it works because it's not the first time that it appears on the album. It's sort of like a thematic element that they kind of harken back to on several of the tracks, and it's a big part of what this record is about. So most of the time I would ding a band for not closing with some metal, but in this case, given the vibe of the recording, I think it was a good choice. Maybe not the strongest choice, but it was a good one. So I didn't mind it so much. But yeah, overall, like I said, it's 6 and 8 for me. There's no bad songs here, but I just wish it just had a little more of its own voice.
I fully agree with you on this. DJ.
Yeah, I kind of picked some of this L'Entrée Noire, The Black Cave. I like that one, and then Enso whatever, nailed it. Bewitched. I like those a lot. I thought the flute intro and was it Par Belenos? It reminded me on the Seventh Day by Master. The way that record opens, it just like, oh god, I haven't heard that in a long time, so it was kind of cool. But yeah, the Terre de Broom was whatever, but I didn't hate it or anything. It just if I got a gun to my head kind of thing. I liked everything on here overall. I had the two standouts. I think those are really strong, but otherwise, it's really solid overall.
Logan.
So I will definitely agree with the general consensus that there is a samey kind of feel across this whole album. I mean, for the most part, the songs do blend in. I think the album overall has a unique feel of it to me, but the individual tracks for the most part do, kind of blur into one another. There are no missteps though, and I think because every single track is doing what they needed to do for the album and to push the album forward. The two tracks that really stood out for me, though, would be the ones that did take a step forward out of the bunch that are kind of doing the same, and that would be Par Belenos, and man, I wish I could pronounce things like Kellen, Loin Au Nord, track 7. Those really kind of changed things up. That Par Belenos, it opens up with the flute. Do you like flutes in metal, Marty? Are those okay?
The jury's out. I don't know.
Whatever.
Which I kind of like that little change up.
I'll take a flute over a sax any day.
There we go. At least we're establishing a hierarchy, you know.
No woodwinds for Marty.
More of an oboe guy myself.
Yeah.
Oboe metal, we'll find it. But I just love the swaying feel of that song, Par Belenos. I mean, it wants me to be in a long haul somewhere with a drinking horn, and just phenomenal guitar riff overall. And I really enjoy the drunken Viking metal shouts that they do. They do it on a couple different songs where everyone just goes "Oi!" and then the riff comes in, and those are always good moments. And there's a really cool almost melodic death metal riff at the end of Par Belenos. And then track 7, Loin au Noir, that has the best riff. It has that like death metal riffage on there that I just think is a great standout in context with all this other black metal. And I just love it. And how the drums just push it forward, like the way he's playing the ride cymbal and stuff. I love it, and it's just feels like it's propelling you into the battlefield. I was, as I was saying, no bad songs, but maybe because I did listen to the Spotify misstep with that interlude track back to back twice, I really don't want to hear Nas Pagan again, the interlude song. That was one too many times, so I kind of skipped that one now.
For me, I think the leadoff track, Tal Infern, it kind of lets you know what's going to happen throughout this album. It's a nice mix of melody and black metal dissonance. You know, that nasty, it sounds nasty, but it's still melodic. The melodies themselves have a very lilting quality to them, and folk tendencies, which makes the songs very memorable. The main hook of this song, he makes several appearances, so it sticks in your brain. It's a nice mix of tempos, keeps the track flowing and interesting. Another favorite of mine is Mort Divine. This is the most triumphant sounding song on the album for me. I like that marching 6/8 time signature. I'm always a fan of that. Gives the track a very spacious atmosphere. I also love the way Louis alternates between the grim and the clean vocals on here. Everything feels like it's beginning to gel on the album at that point. Negative, Nas Pagan, I think what it is and where it's at, it works. But it's basically an acoustic track with moaning over the top. You know, I don't know. It feels like I like the feeling of it being a reset. But the track is largely uninteresting, and really the way the album ends with Chant d'Autonomie. Again, chant indeed, uninteresting O's and ahs with a singular drum hit and a lot of reverb. But really, I'm looking through the track list. I have notes for all of it, but it's just, towards the last song, proper song, is L'Entrée Noire. It's expertly constructed. Nice mix of tempo. The acoustic break is really nice. Varying vocals. But at this point, every track is starting to feel the same, and I'm kind of really ready to be done, to be honest. And I'm not meaning it in a bad way. I mean, I've listened to this album a good 6 or 7 times. I don't dislike it. I think it's really good. I just feel like I've heard it before better and elsewhere better. But again, first time hearing this band, and I just think that I'm interested to hear how they progress. Like, you know, one song popped up in the Spotify after I let the record run out. It sounds like they got a bit heavier. It's one of the. We'll get to that here in a minute. Let's talk about our judgment final thoughts. TJ.
I enjoyed the record. I think it's cool. I give it an 8. If I find it at the store, I'll bring it home. I'm not going to go out of my way to order it or anything, but I would buy it in the wild. it was cool. You know, it's another black metal band that I would be happy to throw in the cabinet over here. So yeah, I mean, again, I think we've all kind of come to a very similar consensus in a lot of ways for this. But I still think it's a really solid release, and it was a cool pick.
Totally. Jim.
Yeah, it's I can't give this any more than a 7. Like I think it's great, but it just and for what it is, but it doesn't have enough of it for me. It doesn't have enough of its own voice. So I'm hearing a lot in the chat about some of their later albums, a couple more after this. Maybe those would be worth checking out. But yeah, I don't think it's not a bad release, but it's just not. It didn't hold my interest enough where I feel like I need to own it or anything like that. So yeah, but maybe check out some of their older stuff. I think they're talking about the 2009 album in the chat. Maybe see if there's something there, because I see the potential, but it just didn't really break through for me.
Kellen.
Yep. I liked it. I would definitely like TJ if I saw it out in the wild. I'd pick it up. And it'd probably have like a little bit of a section on my, if this said it was at full price, I don't know if Logan would have picked it up. Is it at 90% off? I know it's difficult to kind of turn it down. So
I didn't realize Goodwill had a Belenos section. I have to go check the one here in town.
But yeah, it's one of those, more than anything, like I have avoided spending time with this. Like it's just one of those things where I'll get to it, whatever. It come around. Now I can finally cross it off the list. I know kind of what's up. And I wonder if it's going to be something where, like, the more I spend time with the band or listen to more of their stuff, I'll hear more of them in the bands that I do feel more passionately about. Because, like, the Hemons, for example, is a band that I absolutely love. Their first record is 2013. And I think they do this better than anyone. But I would almost guarantee that band does not exist without Belenos. So in that regard, I think they probably deserve more time and more my attention.
Logan.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with where this band kind of landed with their sound, in my opinion. Like, it was just a cool balance between, like, really more aggressive black metal and like death metal riffage and this triumphant folk metal thing, which for me, the albums that I have that are black metal experimenting with folk, it's a bit more separate, like it's like the intense black metal over here, and then you almost have the exact opposite for like folk metal elements. So I enjoyed just how this band was incorporating it. And this kind of also serves as a doorway for me for other scenes within the black metal scene. Like, I'm very familiar with Norway and a little not as familiar with, but Swedish black metal, but I've not really explored the other European countries as much and their scene. So I think this is a cool way to kind of peek into what the French black metal scene is doing. I'd appreciate some recommendations of where to go next. I really enjoyed this album. I definitely think that it doesn't quite have the identity as much, but maybe upon other albums, listening to other albums by this band, or just continuing to spin this one, they will develop more of that identity for me. I still really enjoy this album immensely. Had a blast listening to it, and will definitely be pulling it off the shelf more often, which is really the ultimate goal, was to give some airplay to something that has been just gathering dust. So in that, it was a success. So for me, this is a straight up 8 out of 10, and yeah, I enjoyed talking about it tonight.
Yeah, I mean, my time with this album has been fun. I've enjoyed this record. I didn't dread listening to it, but there's nothing on here that really excited me. You know what I mean? It just seemed very safe is maybe a word that sounds bad, but it's a safe sounding black metal record, and again, I think Devin summed it up. It's a band that it's decent, but they didn't seem quite there yet, and that's really that's where I've kind of arrived at it too. If I was out at Vertigo Records and they had this in the used bin, I would gladly pick it up and come home with it. $6-7. I'm the type of person, if I'm blown away by an album or it has that sufficient, it just resonates with me, I would have blind bought the rest of the other 7 albums in this band's catalog already. But this is one of those bands, like I said, like Kellen said, they've been on my, see the covers, see the logo, and think, oh yeah, I need to check those guys out. It's on a label I like. Interested, but I just never ever pulled the trigger. I don't know what it was. I just don't know what it was, but it was excellent to check out the album this week. And I would give it a 7. It's a good album. It's not a great album. It's it is satiated my need to explore more. I don't really feel the need to go further with these guys. If I did, and I'm surprised, cool. I'm not opposed to it, I guess, but I don't know. I think it's a good album. It's a solid record. It lack of identity. It's a thing. I hear a lot of influences. I'm not hearing a lot of them. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's it. Belenos. I think it is TJ's pick next week.
It is the mighty TJ.
Hooray! All right, everybody, brace yourself for impact. Here we go.
Full on sax attack.
No
Everybody
John
Yeah,
Zorn.
the John Zorn and joins Metallica or joins
Prepare to regale yourself with the dulcet tones of England's war crab, the howling silence. You can do it.
War Crab is the name of the band.
War crab.
Laugh now. I have already double take that. He said, "That's the name of the band."
Is it one word or two?
Yep.
One word.
Is it with a K? That would be more metal.
No.
War Crab. What's the name of the album?
The Howling Silence.
Howling Sycamore, Howling Silence. What's next? What's next, Teach?
There's a theme.
The Howling Silence. That just makes no sense. Stupid. What a stupid name.
Expectations are very low.
It's an oxymoron. I don't know. It is what it is. Here it is. War Crab.
Someone just said more Portal. Great. Yeah, Tim said more Portal.
Damn it, TJ. So. I was in a band with you. I know you've got some good taste.
Just listen to it.
Where are you hiding it?
You have no idea. You don't even know. You don't know what's about to happen.
He likes the band called War Crab, and he likes that other band too that has the slug in the title. A slug?
Sludge.
Sludge.
Yeah, Sludge.
Oh, yeah.
Love that band.
Slugathors, they're good.
Oh, Slugathor is cool. Yeah, I like it. You don't even know.
Everybody do your War Crab homework for next week.
I can't wait till you all listen to this and go, "Wow, dude! Wow,
War Crab is bringing the thunder."
War Crab, just do
I
it.
think TJ secretly hates all of us.
Oh no, nothing but love happening right here. Here it is. I promise. You're gonna be like, wow.
The man loves his invertebrates and mollusks.
Yeah.
Invertebrates and mollusks. Yeah.
Yeah. My ecology. Yeah, that's I like all the sluggy things. It's all good. But all right, we got any other stuff you want to bring up before we do quote of the week?
Friday show notes. Melanie Loves Death Metal and S. Craig Zoller will join Alan and myself. We're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite metal albums of all time.
Pack a lunch.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck nailing that down. But anybody have anything to add coming up on your challenge you want to pump promoter pimp or whatever.
The P word.
There's the metal tag that's been going around.
Oh,
I
you know
saw
what?
I saw it on Wyatt XM's channel the other night.
Dude, I gotta say,
Fairly big.
cheers to everybody that's done the. Al and I, we got to talking after the show last week. We're like, oh crap, we forgot to thank people for doing the metal tag, and it is actually the biggest I've seen it. I don't know. There's a lot of people did it this year. I've been trying to watch all of them, but it's kind of. I did a search for it the other night and was shocked at how many I missed. So it's like a bunch. And cheers to everybody for sure for doing it. And if you're new and you've been thinking about starting a channel, use the metal tag as your jumping off point to do so. We've done all the content for you. All you need to do is answer the questions, show some of your collection. Throw your hat in the ring. It doesn't cost anything, and it's fun, right? It's fun. But yeah,
Yep.
metal tag.
We're gonna give you one more video to watch, Marty. Tomorrow night on Jimmy over at Future Ruins channel, he's having myself and then Tyler, that Alaskan who wanders around in the woods,
Berg Wanderer.
on to do the metal tag. A live stream starts at 10 Eastern.
I was hoping it was Logan's fifth top of 2024 video.
The top 45.
That would have been fucking awesome. The sixth iteration of Logan's top of 2020. Yeah. Kellen, anything for you?
No, I'm actually out of town this weekend for celebrating Corinne's birthday, so I'll be gone in Cincinnati doing our thing. But hopefully, when we get back, I'll jump in on I gotta do this metal tag thing, and then once I get something else lined up, I'll let everyone know.
Cheers! Happy birthday, Corinne. Wish I could buy you a beer. Jim, for you, anything?
Nope, but I'm gonna talk to you guys backstage about some ideas I have about the label. So
cool. Oh. The secret sauce. We're gonna get find out how the cookies are made. Everybody,
the inside scoop.
All right, TJ. Now's your time.
Over the week. Is the world telling you to be more motivated? Well, remember, every corpse on Mount Everest was once a highly motivated person. Good night. Good night.
Cheers, everyone. We'll see you Friday. Jim wants to sign war.